So it happened on May 4th. I had received a phone call in the morning from my employer saying that my truck was ready to go. I'm a tow truck driver. I work for Giver, a 5-ton flat deck with a tilt deck. And drove tow truck. My truck had been down for about 2 weeks for repairs, and I just got the phone call that morning saying, okay, your truck's ready, I got a job for you, so come pick up your truck and start work. And after being off work for like 2 weeks, I was pretty excited to go. While I was off work, I decided to take that opportunity to get clean, to quit heroin. So I had gone on Suboxone, and I hadn't realized it, but I guess just the transition from heroin to Suboxone and the Suboxone itself, I guess I was still pretty groggy and I was still nodding out a lot. Wasn't really aware that I was doing it, so I thought I was good. I thought I was, good to go to work. So I agreed to come pick up the truck and go to work. One of the reasons I wanted to quit was because I wasn't able to do my job anymore. I was smoking so much heroin that I was nodding out all the time, and I would be nodding out behind the wheel. You're doing 100 kilometers an hour down the highway, and you're in a 5-ton truck, and you have a 1-ton truck on your deck, and you're nodding out. And I'd wake up in some pretty hairy situations. Thank goodness I never hit anybody, and I never killed anybody or myself. But that was one of the main reasons why I wanted, because I wanted to be able to continue to do my job. So I leave the house that morning, and me and the wife are sharing a vehicle, and I drop her off at work, and then I go up and pick up her vehicle on my flat deck, and then I planned on bringing her vehicle back to her work for her and dropping it off there, and then I would take off for the day to do my job. I never got that far. After loading her vehicle onto the deck, I proceeded down the highway towards town. During that, and I have no memory of this is just what people have told me, I went off the road. Well, I guess I do have some memories came back. I had no memory of it at first. Now memories are starting to come back. So this is what I remember, and this is what I've start with what I remember. I was driving down the road, I nodded out, and when I woke up, I was in the ditch, driving still at 100 kilometers an hour. And when I realized I was in the ditch, I cranked the wheel and came back up out of the ditch and onto the road and kept driving. And then I pulled over for some reason, and I stopped and I got out and looked at the truck and scratched my head, and then I got back in and kept driving. I remember being worried that I thought the truck was going to flip over when I came back up out of the ditch just because of the angle that I was on. I'm amazed that it didn't. So that was like cue number one right there. I should have just stopped and called somebody and said, hey, look, I can't drive. So I get another maybe 15 kilometers down the road. I nod out again. I'm doing about 80 kilometers an hour, and there's a 40 kilometer an hour corner coming up. So you're supposed to slow down to 40 and take the corner. And you could probably comfortably do it at 60, and that'd be fine. Even do it faster. Maybe not in a tow truck. But I had nodded out, and I came to just before the corner, seeing trees. And when I saw trees, I cranked the wheel, and I felt the tow truck come over off the road and flip. And I don't know if I landed on my roof or my side or whatever. I guess I landed on the roof. Pictures here. I felt the truck impact the ground, and I guess at that time is when the windshield came back and the roof folded down, and my hand and the steering wheel went up through the windshield. And while the truck is rushing across the ground, I can feel the blades of grass touching my fingertips, and I get my hand closer to my body. I pulled my hand back into me. It's like when you're in an accident, everything gets slowed down, and a 20-second accident in your mind can feel like an hour to analyze and think about it. It really is strange how your brain puts everything into slow motion during a traumatic experience like that. So I had quite a few thoughts run through my head. And I definitely was in and out and blacked out and came to quite a few times during the accident as well. So I probably slid a total of 2 telephone poles, I guess. That's what 200 before feet. I came to a stop. At this point, the entire cab of the truck was crushed in. I was folded in half, my head between my knees sort of pinned in the truck. Now, when I pulled my hand back through the window, this is what happened. Okay, so from the line where the scar is, my skin on my hand was peeled back up over my knuckles, and they had to pull the skin back down. I also suffered a broken clavicle, so a broken collarbone, and this is that's as much as I can lift my arm. And just so you can see the difference, I should be able to do that, but I'm only able to do this as far as I can go. And in fact, this is really good. You should have seen about 2 weeks ago. I would have only been able to go like this. So just doing my own little bit of physio at home has really been helping. I also fractured a vertebrae in my neck. I had to wear a collar for 2 months. I had a crush injury to my chest, and so the muscle and the cartilage and the bone all separated from each other. Crushed. I also crushed my ankle and took all the skin off the back of my leg. It was pretty gruesome. I was in the hospital for only about a week, so I got out of there as quickly as I could. When the truck finally came to a stop, I couldn't breathe. The way I was pinned into the truck, my chest couldn't expand because of how I was folded in half and my knees were up in my chest. So I couldn't take a breath, and I started suffocating. And I can't believe I just lived through feeling that whole accident. So I had to feel every bit of it, every blade of grass that went by. I had to feel the violence of that whole situation. I just thought how frustrating. I lived through that just to suffocate and die, and how unfair I thought that was. So after not being able to take a breath, and trying 4, 5, 6 times, it felt like my eyes were going to pop out of my head. At the exact second where I just thought, this is unbearable. I can't do this. Everything went dark. And now, during the accident, all the way up until about 2 days afterwards, I kept going in and out of consciousness. And it was like my brain kept taking me away from the situation right when I needed it to the most. Bring me to just a very calm, peaceful place. So I could relate it to sleeping or just being unconscious, but it's almost like a semi-unconscious or semi-consciousness. Because you do feel a sense, even though you're blacked out, you feel this sense of calm. It really does help protect you. And I really am starting to wonder if there may have been a higher power that possibly could have been there to help protect me during this accident. It's really got me questioning a lot of things. I don't know, suffocated to death, but it is an incredibly traumatic experience, and even thinking about it now, I have to reassure myself everything's okay. I'm not suffocating. I'm not in a vehicle. I'm not in an accident. I actually have to say this to myself, or else my body will go into a panic. And there's quite a few triggers from that accident that will send my mind into a panic like that. Just because of how traumatic the experience really was. Also, because I was on Suboxone, and it has naloxone, they were giving me morphine at the hospital and had never asked me if I was on any type like that, nor did I offer the information because I was out of it, so I never had an opportunity. I didn't have a clear thought in my head or, the ability to express how I was feeling for about 2 days. By about the 24th hour of being in the hospital, they're giving me morphine, and the morphine's not working, so I'm just in incredible pain, and I'm withdrawing. And then finally it comes out, a friend of mine tells the doctor, hey, wait a minute, you can't, he's on Suboxone. And so what they did was they took me off the morphine and pumped me full of 25 milligrams of Suboxone, and proceeded to continue to do that, actually, and for a couple of days. Which I think has kind of messed me up. I've managed to taper down to 16 milligrams from 25, which I'm pretty proud of. It hasn't been easy. I feel like I went through an entire month of withdrawal while I was decreasing my dosage, and I plan to do it again so I can get myself down to about 8 milligrams. So I mean, the accident was one part, but then there was just so many other things that came afterwards, and it made me take another look at life, and I feel like I'm a little more open to accepting. I'm just open to acceptance, I guess. I'm willing to give everything a shot, I guess is what I'm trying to say. I'm open-minded a lot more now than I was, and it's unfortunate that it had to be such a traumatic experience in my life in order to open my eyes, but now that my eyes are open, I'm going to live every day to its fullest, and I'm going to make the most of the life that I have left. I wasted 35 years, and now I'm going to spend the next 35 years trying to better my life. I don't know that I would have made this realization if it wasn't for that accident. So hopefully you enjoy my story here.